3, 2, 1, go. What's up guys, so here's some tips on coloring your characters in Nomad Sculpt. As you know, I don't really do my coloring anywhere else. I do everything in Nomad Sculpt and I enjoy it, I like it. So the first thing you want to be sure to do is adjust your environment to whatever colors that you want. I usually try to color my character last. Not last, but I'll change the color of the environment and the lighting because that all affects the color. So one thing I've already done is I've taken a lot of the body parts, like for example the face. I've just made like a rough paint because usually everything is sort of like this and it looks very plasticky. But I don't really want that. So I like to take a lot of my materials and just make them sort of rougher so they're not all plasticky looking. So that's one thing that I usually do. And the background, see this gray? This will also affect your colors and how you see your colors. So I usually like to set that, I think it's this window. So I usually like to set it to, you know, maybe something closer to what I want the environment to be like. So maybe I want it like a darker blue or something like that. And you can kind of go through and just, you know, whatever speaks to you. That's kind of how I sort of figure it out. So maybe we'll start out with a darker color like this. And also, the ground makes a difference too. So for this guy, let's see, let's make the ground we'll just make it a darker color for now. And maybe we'll keep it a little bit more rough. So we'll just do something like this for now. So the next thing that really affects your designs is the lighting. The lighting really affects color. So I'm going to turn the environment off. And now you can only see the parts that are glowing. So I'm going to turn the environment off and just turn one light on. And this light actually, it usually, when you have your character facing forward, it usually lights it pretty well, as you can see. I also want to make a few other things glow, so I'm going to do that really quick. So now that we have this basic lighting, I'm going to add another light on this side just to lighten up these shadows. So I'm going to add a second light. I'll name this one 1, and then I'll name the second light 2. I'm going to make it a spotlight. And also make sure that you save your views as well. Just hit add view. That way if you get turned around, you can just go back to your view. So let's take this light. Whoops. So now we'll take this light and just swivel it over. And I'll put it sort of towards the back and just angle it towards our, whoops. There we go. You know my ongoing struggle with the gizmo by now. So I'll just kind of lighten them up a little bit from this side. I'll make the cone angle wider. Let me turn on my light icons. And now it's a little bright, so I'm just going to lower it. So maybe something like that. And I'll go back to my view. And that being said, I might be able to lighten up this light a little bit. Okay, so maybe something like that. So I think that looks pretty good. So this is sort of lit pretty well. And this is around the place that I would start coloring. So I just have to figure out what color I want him. I feel like some sort of maybe dark reds and then royal blues or something like that. So for the face, let's start out with maybe a similar color to the ground. But I'm going to stick to So I'll stick to this color throughout. So once I've colored one thing, I'm going to sort of go through and figure out what I want to be this same color. So maybe this, maybe the arms. Let's see, maybe the legs. And all the little bits behind. Okay, I think that is pretty good actually. I'm not sure if I want to color these the same way. I'm just not exactly sure yet. Let's see what they look like. It's actually not bad. So now we also have obviously what he's wearing, or what it's wearing, because I don't really know what it is. But first, there's certain things that I always make like a dark color. For example, the eyelashes, those are always really dark and very rough, because I don't want any sort of light on them. So I make those dark and rough. And also the eyes. So I think for now we'll just make the eyes dark. But do we want, let's add a little bit of, so this is when they're really glossy, but I don't know if I want really glossy. Maybe just something like that for now. All right, so now we kind of have a sort of a theme going. We have this red, but now I want to make a blue to sort of go, to sort of work with that. And I want to make sure that I don't go too like kind of candy colored. I kind of like to keep it a little bit muted, so it looks a little bit more realistic rather than cartoony. So obviously I can figure out how rough I want this. So now that I have that there, let's say that this is all outfit. So I'm going to color, you know, the parts that are the outfits, the back. Maybe all of this as well. Maybe these parts. This kind of bleeds a little bit too much, so I might do this a different color. Maybe even skin color. And the hands, I don't really know what I want to do with the hands. For now, we'll make them all this color. But they sort of look like robot hands, so I'm going to experiment with like making them metallic. I don't know yet. I don't know what I want to do with them yet. But for now, I'll just make them this color. Whoops. Let's make sure we grab everything and paint. The boots can be blue. And the shoes. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Now this can be blue as well. Let's see how this looks. All this stuff looks blue, but it is nice to introduce like some other colors. So like maybe if this was like a brown color. So let's go to the red. And this could almost be like a dark leathery color. That might look nice. Can change the roughness a little bit. And now that I've used that, it's like, maybe I'll use this some other places, like maybe the boots are also that leather color. Because I just want very few colors. Okay, this is like a little mouth type thing. And maybe I'll make this the same color as the eyelashes. And I think these all look nice, but maybe they'll look nice more of a yellow color. But let's see how they look under post-process. They have a nice glow to them. Well, this is actually very dark. There we go. So let's turn on environment. We'll turn it down some. I think that looks nice. Okay, the eyes, let's see, maybe we'll and this is kind of where I experiment, you know, like maybe do like a pop of a different color for the eyes, something like that. Could even make them, you could even give them a little bit of a glow. Something like that. See if I can lower this a little bit so you can sort of see. That's a little bit better of what it looks like. But essentially, I just want, I don't want to use that many colors. When you start using a lot of colors, I think that it kind of suffers a little bit when you start using too many colors. So usually now that I have certain things, I might group them together. Like for example, the cylinder, which is the belt. So we have the belt and then we have the boots. So I'm just going to bring these together. So these are the boots. Now where are the shoes? I'm just going to isolate these and validate them. So these are the shoes. These are the boots. So we'll join those. Okay, so we have, we'll just call it boots. And then we have to find the belt. Okay, so we have belt and boots. So I'll just put those together. So now I can sort of change them. If I want to adjust the color a little bit, I can do that pretty easily. And I'll also do it with this blue. So I'm gonna do that really quick. I'm not gonna show you because it's gonna be boring. So I'll speed it up. I got sidetracked with like coloring it slightly different. Okay, so I joined most of these together. I just have this next sphere. So let me just name it next sphere so I don't. Okay, so the only thing that I think is missing is I don't really like these as white. I want to change them to like a color. So all these are is whatever the mesh is, cloned. So the antennae, cloned, and then the clone set to, in the materials, to additive, and always unlit. So that's all it is. That's all of these are. They're just a cloned mesh. One is an additive, always unlit. So I just have to take the antennae, for example, and then I can choose a color here. And let's say I want them all to be like a light, like a blue glow. It's kind of cool. And then I'll just go and select my different parts here. I can probably take all of these and just make them the same color. Oops, and the glow rings. And the wrist rings I'm going to bring up. That way I can just, next time I can grab them all. And the wrist rings will also change color. So it's good to just group all of the different things together that you want to adjust the color. So this is pretty cool. I like it. So I'm gonna save this, but I'm also going to show you a different way to color it, like in a lighter atmosphere. So let's just do, so that's saved. Let's save as. So now we have two of them. So let's just let's adjust this now. So let's change the background. You can change the background to something lighter, or another thing you can do is just take the plane, like if like whatever you're using for a floor, like you should use like a plane or something for the floor. So you can just make the plane really big, and then you can clone. And you just name it back plane or something like that. So now we'll just use this as the back plane. I'm going to move it out. Then I'm going to do snap. So it goes exactly 90. There we go. Can move it up. Can probably shrink it a little bit. So now we have a, let's make sure that it's actually touching. There we go. It's a little bit more difficult because I'm doing it with post-process on. I'll turn that off for now. So then you have something like this. And the reason why this is important is because when you're dealing with color, the atmosphere, like I was saying, the colors behind you, everything affects your character. Everything affects how it looks. So let's just connect these. So for example, let's just do like a lighter color. Maybe we'll do like just like a warm lighter color. And maybe we want the floor to be glossy. Okay, so now it's lighter. It's kind of a different vibe. So maybe we want to change some of these colors. So maybe something a little more like organic. Something like this. Let's change the skin. It probably would have been good if I grabbed all of these. Like, so we have face, legs. We have the hands. Let's put that under face as well. Knees. Put his knees there as well. His hips. Where are his hips? I don't even see his hips. Anyway, so let's change this to, let's see, what color do we want this? Oh, maybe like a, maybe like a color like this. Go with the palms. And maybe we want the belt and the boots to be, do we want them to be white? It's kind of interesting. We'll make them white. Maybe we'll make this white. Maybe we'll make these white too. It's kind of interesting. And then let's change these to a green color. Okay, something like that. Let's change this to, but notice how I try to use the same colors for these things. I don't try to go too crazy with the colors, because the more colors you have, the less realistic like it looks, honestly. So maybe we'll just do like just dark eyes, or you could do glossy eyes too, if you like the glossy eyed look. And maybe for these, let's see, do we want them illuminated? I feel like it'd be a little bit more of like a natural color, perhaps. something like this. And also, there's also some cool stuff you can do. So if you want to paint on like the face, like if you want to do a lot of like details, then the mesh has to be high. It's the same thing with all of these details that I did here. In order to get really details, the mesh has to be high. And that's how you get a lot of details with the paint. So for example, if I want to paint a different color on his face, what I'll do is I'll make sure that I'm on the face mesh, and I'll add a new layer. So now we have a new layer here. So let's say we want to add, let's take the color of the skin and then make it like a little bit lighter. So let's try this. So now we're using paint, and let's say whatever this alien creature is, he has a lighter spot on his face. And maybe we can use the smooth color brush, which is just smooth with like zero intensity, but you can clone it and just set the intensity down, and then you can save it. That's what this is. It's just smooth with zero intensity. And maybe you want to like smooth the edges as much as you can. Sometimes smoothing is difficult when it's a high-res mesh. You might have to use like smudge. So you can use smudge to kind of get a little bit of a blend going. Or you can take erase, and you can lower your erase down, and then make the brush really small. And then you can sort of erase, and that will give you a blend too, because you're just erasing that layer of color, and that will give you a nice blend. And so let's say you wanted to do dark around the eyes. You could just, I'll go back to the skin tone. I'll make this a darker color. Maybe I'll add a little more roughness, and then I'll add another layer on top of this layer. It depends on, you can move your layers around to wherever you want, but I think it makes sense that it would be on top. And let's say we just wanted to make this darker. It's very dark. Okay, like something like that. And maybe we'll take our smooth color and see if we can just smooth some of this. And if not, we'll just take smudge and make it work. Of course, I would spend more time on this if I was really like making a character, but something like that. But what's cool is you can use the layer and you can lower the opacity of it. So even though that might be really dark, you can lower it so that it's not so dark. Okay, so, and also let's say you want the head to be slightly different color, like and this is where you really get into building layers and why that really makes a difference. And this all starts with 2D. Coloring all starts with 2D stuff, like knowing how to color things. So it's really important to even practice in 2D, practice coloring, things like that, because that's where a lot of this comes into play. So is this the new layer? Yeah, this is the new layer. I'll name it reddish. And I'll go back to my paint tool and I'll add some red. Maybe something like that, maybe a little lighter. And I'll lower the intensity, and then maybe raise the size of the brush. And maybe I'll just paint a bit on here. And just lightly give it some color, maybe in like the cheekish area. And then maybe towards the end you want to like give it something like this. So I really like this, but I want to blend it more. So I'm going to take the head Now I'm going to voxel remesh it a little bit lower, like maybe around like 250. Let's see how that looks. So now that I've lowered it a little bit, let's see if we can now smooth it a little bit better. Let's decimate it a couple times. Oh, let's back up one. So we decimated it a couple times. And the color should definitely smooth now. Lower the intensity of this a little bit. Now let's see if we can smooth that darker layer. Which one is that? That's this one. Let's see if we can take our smooth color and just lower that a little bit. Yeah, now we can smooth this a little bit better. And just get it a little more natural. Okay. I'm going to go to the base. You can also go to the base, and if you want to, if you feel like that's another good reason for making the layers is you can make the base a bit darker if you want, you know, something like this. Let's go into the lighter layer. Let's see if we can smooth that around. But of course, like I'm just kind of playing around with it. I don't really have any set goal. But as you can see, you know, I have a nice smooth transition. Maybe I'll use smudge a little bit and just kind of bring this out a little bit. And for these cuts, if I want them darker, I'll go on top, new layer, we'll call it darker. And I'll use crease. Now remember, we decimated it, so it's a little low now. So sometimes for, like, this is a detail thing, I probably should have did it earlier. But let's see how it works. So I'm using the crease tool. I'm going to press here to bring up stroke painting, which means you'll use the tool and you use the color associated with it. So let's make it darker. Let's turn the roughness up, and I'll make it really small. So then I'll just take the crease and I'll go along that section, and then maybe I'll use smooth color a little bit and just kind of smooth that and just make it a little more natural. But you see how that gives the impression of depth, you know, things like that. Oh, my symmetry must be off a little bit. Not sure how that happens sometimes, but let's see if we can make a match a little bit better. Oh, that looks a little bit better. But anyway, so that's how I would get like a lot of detail in my sculpts. I would kind of just work it that way. Let's see what this looks like, this white backdrop. Let's do post-process. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Lighten this light up. So yeah, so then you have like a little bit of a lighter character. And you can do that. You can do the same with these things. Like take whatever colors you have and then just accentuate them. So for example, I'll take this color and go darker, turn up the roughness a little bit, use crease, and sometimes I'll just do right on the layer, but of course you can always add the layer just to be safe. We'll use symmetry because this is the same. Ah, but you see my symmetry is a little off. Weird. I'll just do it one at a time. So one there, one there. You can add, you know, more if you really want to make it like a little bit more like realistic. You can add some details like this. And then you can smooth them out, or you can just take regular smooth too. You can sort of just smooth it out. And then if it's a little too much, you can lower the intensity and make it look a little like weathered. And it's the same thing. You can add the paint. And I do this a lot. I'll kind of paint around the edges of things. Like all of this stuff, like I might just paint around the edge and just make it all like a little bit darker where those creases come together. And that gives it a real nice, like natural weathered look. And I might do that with all my colors, with everything. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm kind of getting crazy. That's all I really wanted to go over. There's so many really cool ways to color in Nomad. It's just diving into the tools and just thinking of ways that you can get to what you need. And layers is a big way to get there. Just remember, you can change the opacity of the layers. You can actually, you can actually add clay and stuff, and you can take that away. Like for example, if I add a layer, let's see if this even works. If I add a layer and then I drag it, I think it works. Oh, that actually looks cool. Let's say I drag it out like this, which, not gonna lie, I kind of love. I'm pretty sure that if I take this away, it does like almost like it's growing. So you can do some really cool things with it. I might just keep that like that. This is bugging me though. Let me push this down. And let's take, you can take the environment away. It gets very dark. But sometimes I tend to like dark, as you can see. I tend to like darker models. What else did I want to show? Oh, and the last thing I wanted to tell you about is a lot of times using Subsurface scatter, also you can do some really cool things with it. So I'm going to change all of these to Subsurface, but I'm going to turn the depth down so they're not so thin. But you can get some really cool effects with it. Again, I'll turn it down because you still want to have those details there. And maybe we'll do it for the arms as well. Okay, we can start with that for now. I'll change this too. Oh, we did the cape. So when you use Subsurface, it's really cool to add a really bright light behind it. So now I'll add another light. We'll name this 3. And we'll make it a spotlight. And we just want to put it behind so it shines through, because that's what we want. We want it to shine through. So let's bring it back and let's turn off snap. We'll just face it to our character. I like to do it from like one side or the other, usually. This is very bright. Probably too bright. So I'll move it back. I'll move it over a little bit. So now you can really see. Let's turn the brightness down of this light a little bit. It doesn't need to be that crazy. But that also adds another element to your sculpt. When you have Subsurface scatter, it really makes a difference. Do we want these to glow? I can't remember what we... Oh, it's probably just the color, whatever color we chose. It's not like a bright color. Let's do them all yellow. So now they all have a yellow glow. Let's add a blue light up top. So we'll add a spotlight. We'll make it blue because it's a lot of everything is very warm. So when you have a lot of things that are warm, it's nice to add some cool colors in there. So for example, I'll move up and I'll point this directly down. So I want it directly overhead. Maybe we'll lower the cone angle. We'll lower the brightness. Maybe we'll make it a little cooler. And yeah, it's just nice to add a little bit of blue in there too. It just kind of offsets your color. Maybe it's like a light from wherever he is, like a light source. Make it a little stronger. Let's go back to our view. But anyway, so that's how I pretty much color in Nomad. There's a lot you can do. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know. And yeah, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. So this is ProRes. I just want to see how ProRes looks. I don't usually use ProRes, so I just want to see how it looks. Just want to see the detail difference. It's a very interesting character. Okay, this is ProRes on the darker one, so let's see how this looks. Thank you guys so much for watching the tutorial. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out my Skillshare classes. I have 2D classes in Procreate, 3D classes in Nomad Sculpt. Just go to drugfreedave.com. You'll find all your information. I have some class previews and things like that. I hope to see you in class. Be sure to follow me on TikTok, Instagram. Everything is Drug Free Dave. And if you post your work, I'm more than happy to share it on my stories. I love sharing my students' work. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.